Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Arcantu here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. Good morning. So happy to have some time with you today. It's Thursday, in case you needed that. We are so happy to be with Amber today. As you know, if you've been following us, we have joined with our YWTV platform. We have joined the Share the Mic Now campaign, which allows us to amplify the voices, stories, and impact of Black women and what they're doing in our community. And we're using social media to do it. Over on our Instagram page, if you follow at YWCANNJ, you will see our posts there. And also you can see lots of posts because this is a national campaign, or I should say global campaign that kicked off on June 10th, where it has had white women featuring Black women on their Instagram pages. And if you go to hashtag share the mic now, you will see so many amazing stories that pop up. But if you do it on our page this week, you see this amazing story of this amazing woman. And we're so excited to have her here. And it's a great opportunity to hand over our platform so our community gets to meet some of the wonderful Black women that we have here locally and, learn about their life experience, learn about their stories. And it's our hope that it helps build a bridge so that we can all stand shoulder to shoulder together to continue to work to eliminate racism, which is our ultimate mission and goal at the YWCA. And I know, Amber is all in. She has been a supporter of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey for some time. We have had the pleasure of having her inspire and engage our young women at a recent Gen on the Go, which is our Girls Empowerment Network, which she focused on emotional health and well-being conversation, which was in February, right before we kind of shut in, and even closer to when we all kind of came in. She was one of our speakers at our Women's Leadership Conference. She was part of a really dynamic power panel conversation that really left the room of about 125 women just electric, when they were done talking. So you're in for a treat. Because we accomplished, lots of great goals today. We'll be, again, learning about this wonderful Black woman and her story. You'll just be feeling great when we're done talking with her. And I get to feel great when I'm done talking to her because I love talking to her. So with that, let me tell you a little bit more about Amber. She is a life and career coach, positive psychology practitioner, speaker, small business consultant, and on-air talent. She's the founder of Quartz Wellness Collective, a wellness lifestyle company that provides life-enhancing training and coaching services, as well as wellness-focused events and multimedia and edutainment. She's purpose-driven serial entrepreneur who's dedicated to uplifting, educating, and motivating individuals in the community to thrive. And I fully encourage you to follow her on all of her social media platforms. We'll talk about what they are. She is involved in so many great events that she is part of sponsoring, that she's supporting, that she is doing, and not to mention just other great posts. So welcome, Amber.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love that introduction. And one of our great accomplishments was getting on this today because I had a few technical difficulties.
We almost could not share the mic. So the funny thing is, folks, is we had the beautiful, visual, but we had no mic. That was the irony of it all.
I don't know what that was about, but it's better to hear than to see. So we had to get the mic going. I'm just so happy to be here with you all. And I really do fully support the YWCA and its mission, and the work that you all are doing is incredible. So I'm just honored to be able to share the mic with you and have this conversation today. I've enjoyed everything that I've done with you all, and I just am really grateful for how dedicated you all are to this space. It really makes a big difference. So thank you for having me.
Of course. Look, again, our goal today is to amplify the voices of Black women. We need to listen to them, and we need to hear how, we can change the world together from your perspective. So with that, let's start with talking a little bit about you and your business and your serial entrepreneurship, and, maybe tell our viewers a little bit about you.
Yeah. So, I was doing this presentation yesterday, and it's like, when I tell my story, I almost learn something else about myself every time. It's really funny. But a part of my story, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and I went to Detroit public schools, and I got really great grades and got a scholarship to go to a high school, an elite private high school. And a part of what I recognized was so important in that experience for me was being in a setting where there was no cap on success. There was no hindrance of success. There was an expectation that you would come and be successful. And I noticed the difference between that and the schools that I was in prior to that. And how that impacted the children that I went to school with as they became adults. And so I told that story as I did a presentation to a charter school yesterday, and it really formed my attitude, my mindset towards going about my career. That's a part of why I'm a serial entrepreneur. There's never been this like cap on success for me. So yeah, I've had a few businesses. The one that I'm in now suits me best. My businesses, thank God, have done well, but they've evolved as I've evolved. And so after I had a company called Cane and Couture, and I went on Shark Tank and I got investment, and that was all great, but I realized it wasn't fulfilling me anymore. And I was doing these talks at schools, and entrepreneurs were reaching out to me, and I started coaching, and I found that I loved that more than I loved my pet apparel company. So I started the Quartz Wellness Collective, and I went back to get a few certifications. So I'm now certified in positive psychology. I study the science of optimal well-being and also positive education. So it's positive psychology in the schools. And overall, just my mission is to uplift and empower communities to thrive. And I have a really big passion for working with communities of color, underprivileged communities where there's economic inequality, and helping to mobilize the next generation to bridge the gap between where we are and where we deep down know that we can be, but all that stuff kind of gets piled on top of it as we get to be adults. And so, I really help my goal is always just to help bring out the best in people and organizations.
So let's talk about all that stuff that gets piled on top, right?
Right.
Right. That's what Share the Mic is really all about.
Yeah.
What has your life experience been with all that stuff?
Yeah. So it's been interesting. I think so. Quite a few things. Where do we start? There's what I found even as a teenager, going to an elite private school in the suburbs and coming from Detroit, was that early on, I started to notice the stereotypes and be subject to stereotypes of who I was as the Black person in the room, because I might have been the only Black person or one of the only Black people that the non-Black people around me knew of. And so to them, when watching the news or when watching television, or if watching or listening to music, there's this like, oh, hey, like you've got to be this, and it's like, as a person that, as a person of color, we often have to deal with these stereotypes. And for me, I gained awareness around that early on. I gained awareness around being the person that someone looks to represent all Black people, and it's like, I am one Black person having a Black experience. I can speak for some of my brothers and sisters and my family and my friends, but I can't speak for everyone. But there's that weight that you carry along with you throughout life of like, just wanting to break the stereotype, and then also just wanting to have, when we talk about the conversation around privilege, just to have the privilege of just being me and not having that weight on me, like not having to explain who we are, why we do what we do, or, hey, we're not all like that. That's followed me in different certain situations in my life. But I am passionate about creating these conversations to expose people to more people that they may not see in real life. We're on Facebook now. What happens in Facebook comments? People start to spew their opinions all over other people, right? And there's not this, the real compassion and the real active listening that needs to happen in order for us to understand each other's sides and challenges and perspectives.
So, you talked about helping young people deal with all of this stuff. And obviously, you've just shared your experience with it. How do you coach young people around this and handling this? I mean, obviously, you figured out a way to manage it for yourself.
Yeah.
What are some of the tricks, if we have any young people listening, that they can use?
Know your history beyond. We're not rooted in slavery. So especially when I'm working with young Black children, I actually have a book right here I'm going to share with you all. Hold on one second. This is called Through Our Eyes, and it's a expanded curriculum for Black history in schools. And so with some of the schools that I'm working on getting them to take this book, and it's by a gentleman, Joseph Edelin. He's really a dedicated Black history teacher down in Georgia at the KIPP schools. And he's developed this book. And I find it as a great starting point in helping us to understand our history and to have more pride in our story. It gives a better foundation and expectation of what we can do and what we can accomplish. I urge kids to move. I urge kids to travel, to go beyond the confines of their neighborhood, to get out, even if it's just going 30 minutes north of where they live, or south of, or east or west of where they live, and getting into different environments. I have high expectations of the kids that I work with. I will not lower my expectations for the way that society has lowered some of the expectations for them. I really help to get kids to recognize what their strengths are and to build on them, and to have more compassion and empathy for themselves and for each other. Because, we definitely don't want to be tearing each other down. We want to be lifting each other up. And so when I do workshops with kids, or when I go into schools and with adults as well, it's really important to create this sacred space where we're learning and sharing and expressing ourselves, because emotional intelligence is one of those kind of buzzwords now, right? But what is emotional intelligence? It's our ability to notice, name, and navigate our emotions in ourselves and in others. And so when we are able to do that, we're able to really recognize and acknowledge our experience, and then express our desires for moving forward. What is coaching? Coaching is helping you to get from where you are to where you want to be, but you got to first work on that stuff that's built up in between. So I create spaces where we can do that. And within our communities, in the Black communities, mental health, I'm just so grateful that it's becoming more recognized and more of an effort to improve the mental health, because we deal with a lot of generational trauma, chronic trauma that's been passed down. And not until we have those discussions, not until we name those feelings, can we really start to break that pain down, understand it, and take the shame away that allows us to move forward and progress.
Absolutely, absolutely. And do you find in your discussions with younger, Black, I'm saying children, but really young people, right? So younger Black people, and more, when I say older, I'm probably talking about my age, right? Adults, kind of more, older adults. Do you find that they have a different experience with racism, or a different mindset about it? What, when you're working with them and trying to transition them, or is it the same?
Yeah, I wanted to say, for a while I said yes. And I think that it really it depends on where we are. Because unfortunately, like lately, I've been seeing so much of, okay, I'll give you a story, for example. I have a very good friend of mine. Her daughter goes to a Catholic school here in New Jersey, and her white friends were asking her for permission to say the N-word. And they were like, come on, it's cool. Like, we just want to say it. Like, can we just say it? Like, and if she says, she felt pressured. If she were to say no, then they were to get upset. But if she were to say yes, what would that mean in sacrificing who she is and what she believes? And this girl is 10 years old. And she's having to make these decisions. And so, it's unfortunate that I do think that we're making progress. And so I do see a shift in our children, but their parents and what they're hearing in their households can really take them right on back to that space in the 1950s and 60s, and what we've come, the progress that we've made can erase some of that, because they're hearing the people that they love and respect in their household saying these things behind closed doors, and they don't know how to have that filter. I'm kind of grateful to know what's being said, because then, you know, we can talk about it. Yeah. But so there is a difference, because there are also the very progressive families that are teaching their children to love and to go, you know, to not stereotype and to confront their bias and whatnot. But then there's the other side of things. So this whole, you know, all of what's happening right now in 2020, it's really ripped the cover off of a lot of what's been going on kind of behind the scenes. And it's painful. But again, I just think that it's necessary to be able to confront these things and have these uncomfortable conversations, even when they are, in order to progress and move forward. I do feel that overall Generation Z is just much more open and fluid than any generation has been in the past. You've got, we're crossing all types of barriers, racial barriers, but also look at, I'm coaching a group of, I'm working with the Institute of Educational Learning or Leadership and coaching a group of high school seniors. And I really love the diversity in the group, and that, you know, they're not even conforming to these gender roles, and they're not doing, they're not putting themselves in the boxes that we have put ourselves in with past generations, with older generations.
Well, I'm sorry to hear the story about what happened to the young girl, but I'm glad that you shared it, because I do think that that's something that, you know, many white people don't understand, that a lot of you know, Black children end up kind of having to leave their kind of childhood way of thinking earlier than white children do, that we get to keep our children in some kind of bubble sooner about life than Black children do. We recently did a conversation with, you know, 3 Black women that are, you know, connected to the YW as well, talking about raising Black sons. And of course, I raised a son as well. And, you know, part of this conversation came because Sonia Collins, who's, you know, one of our past presidents of the YW, and I had, you know, shared this conversation over the years about raising our sons. And again, I don't think a lot of white people know that, and they need to know that, because it really isn't fair. It really is not, it isn't fair. And it's one of the things that really should be motivating us, is that we need to be able to keep children and not have all this heaviness on them. I mean, for sure. So there's many reasons to eliminate racism. But that's, for me, definitely, you know, one of them. So children can grow up and thrive without having these pressures on them so young. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that story. So what else to, you know, to talk about? So, you know, obviously we are in this time, as you said, 2020 has ripped, you know, put the spotlight, you know, on a lot of issues around racism. Obviously, COVID itself, you know, we've seen the impact of the inequity about how, you know, that's impacted, you know, Black and brown communities and communities of color versus, you know, white communities and, you know, essential workers and, you know, all of, you know, the conversations and issues there. You know, when you see all these protests happening since the, you know, since the death of George Floyd and, or I should say the murder of George Floyd, since we've seen all these, you know, protests and people coming together, you know, what are your thoughts on that in terms of, you know, moving us to a different place of social action on this issue?
Yeah, you know, I'm here for it. I know that there's so many mixed opinions about that, but until this becomes something that's uncomfortable for everybody, I think that it can just continue to be ignored. It is so we were already in a quarantine, right? And we're already home, and we're already, a lot of us, out of work or off of work. And then the murder of George Floyd happens and these protests start happening. And a lot of times when these things happen in the past, we've been able to get all excited for a couple of days and then go back to normal. But what is normal now? right? So we're not as distracted as we usually are with all of the what's going on in our everyday lives. Of course, there's still the distraction of what we choose to focus on online and social media and whatnot. But there's really been this amplification of the message that Black Lives Matter, and this in this way that's a lot more in your face than it has been in the past. And look at the progress that we are making. I think there's just a lot more education around the situation, and there's a lot more action because, these companies and individuals are not allowed, it's not as convenient for them to stay silent anymore. It's like pick a side or pick a platform, pick an action, do something. And what are you going to do about that? And we're holding you accountable. And, not in my time have I seen as strong of a movement as what's happening now. And so a lot of the work that I'm doing is around continuing that movement, continuing to call for action. We have a call today, the National Association of African Americans in HR, and we're doing a talk about eliminating racism in corporate America, and what that takes, with a lot of Black HR professionals who are joining, because, we are not as upwardly mobile in spaces. We are experiencing systemic racism. There are these things that when you're not affected by them, you can easily say, oh, does that happen? I don't know about that. That doesn't exist. And now, there are illustrations like Jamal, and that are so simple but so impactful, where people who did not understand, who don't understand the struggle, and who look at Black people and just say, why don't they make better choices? That's literally, I did a call and a woman asked that question, and I said, well, the simplest answer to that is that we have fewer choices to make and don't have a lot of the same choices to make. And that's a very general statement, a blanket statement, but we went into that and I won't go into that now. But it has been for so long, like your people, even when those of us get good jobs and we go into these companies, it's like, you don't want to come in and start being the rabble rouser and going, okay, now I've got to bring my Black brothers and sisters with me. You need to change your policies. Without this movement, it's hard as an individual to go in and do that. But with this movement and with this collective, with the collective shift happening, and highlighting the importance of this, now it's easier to have these conversations, which is part of why we're doing this talk from 12:30 to 2 today on Eventbrite. If anyone wants to check it out.
We'll put the link here in case anybody wants to watch it. We'll put it here into our broadcast.
Yeah, thank you. But so it's my honor to work with organizations. I love working with individuals too, but the impact that you really get from working with organizations and going about that collective change just helps us get further faster. And we need it because there's a lot of progress to be made, for sure.
For sure. I'm, listening to you talk about corporate America, right? And all the systemic, racism and implicit bias issues that we know that it's fraught there. Here we're talking about, children and youth and, what they have to carry, what Black and brown people have to carry in the workplace, what children and youth have to carry with them as well. And I know your commitment to self-care and your commitment to mental health issues. What is some of your advice for, to manage, having to carry all this and still, keep yourself in a, mentally and emotionally, healthy place? And, is that possible? And, if it is, what are some of the tips and techniques that you use for yourself, for your children, for your family, that you would share with other, parents and individuals struggling with it?
I'm so glad you asked that question. That's a really good question. So a few things. For me, I can say what personally works for me, but I'm going to give a general answer and then go more narrow. So generally finding ways to process what's going on, not keeping it in, because we're noticing that the stress is leading to heart disease, cancer. It is there's an impact that the stress has on our physical well-being as well as our mental well-being. And when we are able to process the stress, when we're able to process the trauma, the pain, the grief, then we're able to mention it and manage it. We can break it down better. But when we hold it in, it festers beneath the surface and turns into other things. It goes into different parts of our bodies. And there's a whole science dedicated to this. So really finding ways to process. And so what does that look like? For me, what has really kept me through this time has been meditation in the morning. I take the time to get up, and before I pick up my phone and look at my emails or Instagram or my text messages, I meditate. That can look like prayer to some people. Mine is kind of a mix between meditation and prayer. I, for 40 days, actually did a practice where I did Kundalini yoga and meditation for 2 hours from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. And that sounds like some people were like, oh my God, that's crazy. But it just helped me to really not be as weighed down with the problems and to get more solution focused and dig in and say, what can I do? And during this time that I acknowledge and totally have worked with and worked to help people get out of this dark space that a lot of us are in, but we can make the choice of how we start our days in the morning and how much of this content we're taking in. So that's another thing, just turning the TV off, getting off of social media sometimes is important. If we're being bombarded with all of this negative imagery, it has an effect on us. It's weighing on us, right? I took a social media break because I literally had anxiety about seeing another Black person be killed on my thread. And then seeing people talk about it and have a lack of understanding and make insensitive comments was just weighing on me and making me upset. And I was like, yeah, I just need to unplug for a second. And so we honor ourselves when we unplug, when we get away from the noise, getting out into nature, wherever you are. If you can go take a walk, if you can go get into the woods, if you can get away from the constant stimulation of our electronics, it is good for our souls. Like, we need that. And then having conversations with people that don't look like us. If we are only talking to people who look like us and who carry our opinions, then we are still ignorant, because we're ignorant to, or have a lack of knowledge of, the other side of things. There's so many different perspectives, so many different lenses. And so, a part of what I've been doing with Quartz Wellness Collective is having these uncomfortable conversations, but creating these spaces where people can come together and have discussions. There was there was a lot of talk around, don't expect your Black friends to explain racism to you. And although I agree with that on some terms, because there's no, you are not entitled. There's no one is entitled to a Black friend of yours having to explain racism to you. However, if we all took that stance, and if we did not create spaces where we explain what it means to us, then there can't be that understanding and that empathy. It can't happen. And those conversations being had without us, I find to be dangerous. So I put the effort. I did 4 or 5 conversations in the last couple of months around different issues of racism, to quite frankly, let white people come and ask those questions that are uncomfortable to ask, because if they ask them, if they don't have people in their close personal circle that are Black people that they can ask these questions to, then they're having a conversation without us. And where is that really taking them? There are assumptions that are being made without clarity that could be had from just directly asking a question or voicing an opinion. So when we allow for people to say, I just don't understand, can you tell me why? And where they're not in fear of the answer and they don't feel like they're going to be judged. Because I do truly believe that there are people that are like, I want to help, I want to do something, that there are white people who've gone, or non-Black people who've gone, what can I do? What should I say? Do I not say anything? And sometimes nothing is said because they're just uncomfortable. I don't know what to say, but that doesn't mean they don't want to say something. So you'll see on my YouTube channel, shameless plugs here, and on my website, these conversations where, we had conversations, and they can get uncomfortable at times, right? It's not always comfortable, but they're necessary.
I have to agree they are necessary. And, you know, it's okay for white people to be uncomfortable as we're kind of exploring these issues and, you know, unlearning, you know, what, you know, we've all been taught. I mean, you know, racism is something that, you know, we all have to come to terms with, and depending on who we are and our life experience in what way. But the reality of it is we as white people have a lot to unlearn, you know, to be able to move forward. As we are talking, the guru of our video guru above us has been putting links in. She put the discussion that you're having today in here. We also will be linking information about Amber's YouTube channel so that you guys can go there and watch more of her conversations that she's having with the community. Because
may I just say, Helen, if there was one video that you watch on my YouTube channel, watch Thriving While Black. It's a conversation that we did on how to, if you are a parent and you're wondering how to talk to your children about this, we brought together Black educators, Black entrepreneurs, and change makers in our community. We talked to Dr. Achille Petit, the superintendent of Harlem Children's Zone, and we had a conversation around race, resilience, and the potential to thrive no matter what. We talked about our trauma, we talked about our history, we talked about our education systems and what we can do as parents to supplement what's going on in the schools if schools are not as advanced as somewhere like Harlem Children's Zone, and just how to have those conversations. And it was really an amazing conversation. You know, Jay Wilson,
yes.
Melanated Moms,
yes,
shout out to Jay Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah, she was in on the conversation and it was really, really fantastic.
Well, we just linked that particular one for everyone to watch right into the comments. So we do encourage you all to watch that. And, you know, I just really have to thank you for being so open and sharing so, you know, completely and, you know, candidly for our viewers. You know, clearly as a white person, it's you know, it is difficult to ask your friends and your, you know, peers that, you know, you have personal relationships with that are not necessarily related, you know, to this work to come and share this way. But at the end of the day, I agree that it hopefully can help bridge some understanding and, you know, move us, you know, incrementally into the right direction. You know, we cannot eliminate racism alone, one group. We all have to do it shoulder to shoulder together and whatever it takes. And it's a journey. It's a journey for everyone to go on to be an ally, to be an activist, you know, to, you know, in your situation that you know, how you have to take it on, and my situation, how I take it on, you know, we all have to go through our own journey, but we're trying to get to the same place. So I'm hoping that we're bringing people there.
Yeah, and I just honor that you choose to take it on because you have that choice and you make the choice to take it on. You know, I asked a lot of white women, how many times have you been the only white woman or the only white person in the room? Right. I've been the only Black person in the room a lot of times, but how many times have you been the only white person in the room, and how comfortable were you? And often the honest answer is never, and if they were, there was a lot of discomfort. You, I know, that's a different story. You've been the only white woman in the room a lot of times, the only white person in the room, and you've been comfortable because you create these spaces. And that's what I encourage. I encourage all of us to do, not just white women. I encourage Black people as well. Hang out with people that don't look like you sometimes. Be in the rooms where you are not, where everyone does not look like you. You learn so much more. Yeah, and some of those stereotypes really start to be broken down when we have a greater awareness of the range of us. I asked, there was a woman on one of my calls, and she said she's from another country, and she was talking about the Black people in Brooklyn, and she had a lot of stereotypes. And I said, but I said, so as a Black person, I wouldn't go into a trailer park or the White House and expect that all white people are going to act like the people who are in either place. And just like there's that spectrum from the trailer park to the White House, maybe that's political. Anyway, I won't get into that. But you know, it's just to say that we are a beautiful rainbow of people, and there's a range of experiences that we've had, and we are not all the same. And I really hope to continue to see the stereotypes being broken.
Well, I join you, and I stand with you, and I'm really again grateful that you shared. So one question that I've always been meaning to ask: so why quartz? What was
Oh, that's so funny. So look at my quartz here.
Okay.
Isn't
I mean,
that
I know
beautiful?
I sleep with rose quartz next to my bed because I know its power, but I was curious. So and that's a beautiful piece of quartz, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, so Quartz Wellness Collective and 39 Quartz. So I do my events under 39 Quartz and Quartz Wellness Collective. And the importance of quartz for me is that it's a healing tool. It is known for its healing powers, and it amplifies the other positive energy around it. And so to me, that's what I do. I'm focused on healing and on amplifying positive energy. So
Love it.
That's why quartz.
So folks, I'm glad that you got a chance to meet Amber, and I do encourage you to follow all of her, social media, to check out her events, definitely watch her YouTube channel. She obviously really recommends this one conversation, which we'll also post separately on our Facebook page too. But there's a lot more to learn about Amber, and clearly she's inspiring and engaging, and I'm grateful again that you shared, sharing your story with us. And you can learn more about her on our Instagram page. You can go connect and follow her as well. For those of you watching, just a few reminders. Census numerators are going to start coming to homes on August 11th, just to make sure that they can help people get the census completed, whether it's easy to do, whether you do it by phone, online, or by mail. Please take a few moments to do that. We're having this conversation about equality, and this is one of the ways that we get everyone counted and everyone's needs, covered. It only happens once every 10 years. I know there's a lot of concern at times about, being part of something like this, and but it is covered federally, a federal offense to leak information for anyone who completes the census. It's very important that we know this time alone has really put a light on why it's so important. Our resources in our communities come from this count. So this is the time we have through October. So please take a few moments to do that. Remember to register to vote too.
Yes, please vote.
Yes, vote. And again, it's not just about our presidential election. There's lots of important elections happening. Make sure you're getting educated on the issues and making sure that you're finding candidates that support your values and that's who you're putting in office. With all of that, I also want to say the YWCA is getting ready to launch some exciting efforts to keep building allyship in our communities. Starting August 10th, you'll see we're launching a 21-day challenge to educate people on racism. And you'll be getting more information about that every day for 21 days. You'll be, those of you who sign on will get an email with some homework, for you to do to broaden your knowledge and, hopefully, as we said, create some, allies and ways that we can all be allies along the way. So we encourage you to not only sign up, but to share it with all of the groups that you're connected to. It's a easy thing you do privately. Will come to your email, and we'll be talking more about that as well coming. And I hope that you join us. This is our, we've had another great week of YWTV conversations. Grateful to everyone who joined us. We have a whole, wonderful conversations set for next week too. Please join us for those. And we wish everyone, I know it's Thursday, but we're going to say have a nice weekend because we're not going to see you tomorrow on YWTV. Stay well, stay healthy. And Amber, thank you again so much for being a light in this world and, for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all that you do. You're incredible.
Same.
And I support and will be donating. Donate to the YWCA. They do amazing work. I've been in the room. I've seen the children. I see the impact that they have. So please join me in donating.
Well, we thank you for the support, everything you do, whether, volunteering, dollars, it all helps. But, we're on a mission together for sure. So thank you. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.